1. 2 nights ago, a customer calls for a to-go order. My boss, manager, owner, answers the phone. Customer asks for specific tacos that aren't on the menu, but my boss, knowing how to make them, he decided to go out of their way and make them for the customer. Boss explains the ticket to me because I've never heard about the birria tacos before, and told me that he had decided to start introducing new items on the menu to keep on the game. There's 2 other Mexican restaurants in the area I work at. Order is ready. Boss had told the customer that the order would be ready between 10 to 15 minutes. It's 20 minutes and the customer doesn't show up. It's been 40 minutes. Customer is nowhere to be found. 1 hour, 2 hours. Of course, my boss isn't pleased with this customer because they put extra time and effort for these tacos for nothing. 1 minute before closing, the customer calls. She wants her order. I explained that her order had been sitting there for hours and that the kitchen is closed already and couldn't get her new tacos. She says it's okay, she wants them and she's pulling in. To make sure I ain't making a mistake by selling those tacos, I asked my boss and he told me it was okay. Have in mind I'm in Missouri and it was freezing cold outside. Since we offer curbside, we have to take the food outside to the parking lot. Now tell me why this bitch takes her time on her phone, texting and making numbers on the calculator, and back to texting someone else, instead of getting the fricking card to pay. I thought my thoughts were going to freeze before she paid. I see her acting kinda sketchy. She'd be like on her phone, and then reaching to her purse, then like reaching the steering wheel, and then back to her phone. She grabbed something that looked like a card and extended her hand to give it to me in exchange for her food. But she grabs the bag and starts opening the food without giving me the card. My thoughts were like, this bitch is gonna act like something is wrong with her food after she took so long to pick it up. She then dismisses the bag, looks at her phone, again kinda reaching the steering wheel and backs out, then asks me for a side of guacamole and sour cream. At this point the kitchen has been dismantled, like almost 40 minutes ago for the weekly cleaning, and I had told her already over the phone that the restaurant was closed. So no, you can't get that. Kitchen is no longer in service for a while now. She then took a deep breath and resigned, gives me her card. I go cash her out, and when I'm back she had her food spread over the passenger seat. I gave the card to her. Motherfucker didn't tip, and I went my merry way. It wasn't until after I was telling the story to my sister after I got home that I realized she was probably trying to run away without paying, and asking me for the side orders was a means to achieve that. Little did she know, if by any chance I could have gotten her the side orders, I would have taken the bag with her food with me, with the excuse of putting the sides in her bag, so to make it easier for her. Today I asked my boss if there was an update on the lady. He said there was none. He hasn't heard anything about her. 2. I had a table of 6 come in, a grandma, the grandma's daughter, a teenager, and 3 children under 5. First of all, it took them 10 minutes to order 6 plates. They were very picky. I had just taken another order that I couldn't put in until I was finished with this one, so that put the other order behind. While waiting for the food, the kids began screaming and crying, so the teenager brought them to the entrance, where she let them stomp all over a booth. I bring the food. This is where the fun begins. I somehow brought the wrong omelette to the table. They said that this one was wrong and that the biscuits were stale and they wanted toast instead. This wasn't their fault, obviously, so I replaced it. One kid didn't want the chicken strips she ordered, so the grandma starts yelling and cursing at her. The kid wants a pancake now, so grandma orders that. She later asks for the pancake to be a to-go. Later on, she adds another pancake when our kitchen should have been closed. Later I go back, and the grandma says,
"This is the awfulest fried chicken and potato I've ever had. I'm not paying for that."
I asked the manager about it, and she told me she had to pay. So I go back and explain she has eaten basically half of it and needs to pay. She states she has not had more than 2 bites of the chicken, and that she will not be paying for that. I tell her that I will speak to my manager again. After the phone call with our boss, she tells me that the boss will not give her more than a 10% discount. I tell the lady, and she began yelling at me, telling us to call someone else. I then say, "Ma'am, the owner of the restaurant told us that you have to pay." The lady then starts yelling expletives in front of not only the 3 small children at her table, but also in front of the entire building. Manager says she will call the police if they don't pay. The daughter offers to pay for it all. However, the daughter got upset over the price of water, which was 1 cent each. She says she will pay for everything, but not for the 5 waters the family drank. She pays for everything except the waters, and the family stays for about 30 minutes after we closed. Finally, they leave. Grandma comes back in before we can lock the door. She marches her way back over to the counter and says,
I have one more issue with y'all.
She then says that the manager did not apply her 10% discount. The manager said that she offered it, but the lady didn't want it. The lady goes on about it, and the manager says she is done talking and calls the boss back. The lady leaves stating,
I just had a question, but you had to be a bitch.
She flips us off, then leaves. 3. Just last year, we had a client who turned out to be a total Karen. It started out with small tells that we probably should have noticed in retrospect. Degrading comments made towards their own daughter during a menu tasting, snippy over prices. However, it didn't quite register at the time, and we gave them the benefit of the doubt. They originally decided to do a self-serve buffet, and picked out a menu pending their final guest count. We gave them a ballpark based on their maximum guest count, and that seems to be that for the time being. Months roll by, and they give us their final guest count. We deliver an estimate based on that. Almost immediately, more snippiness over price. They also want to change from a buffet service to fully plated, for reasons they feel there is not enough space in the venue for a buffet. We oblige and redo the estimate. Now, for any who aren't aware, plated service generally requires far, far more staff than a buffet. You need plating cooks, servers, not to mention additional equipment like plate racks, etc. Karen is furious, demands the servers are removed because the guests can walk up to the kitchen service window and get their own plates. Fine, that's doable. Why is the price still so high? We proceed to explain the equipment, the kitchen staff needed, plus having staff on call in case of call-ins and no-shows. Karen isn't having any of that, all sorts of cajoling over the price and unneeded staff, blah blah blah. At one point, they even tried using the native status of some relative to get the sales tax removed too. Turns out that just trying to do that is a federal crime where we're at. Wish I'd known at the time. Ah well. So we trim it down. I've plated for 35 solo with no delay out of the back of a van. I was outpacing what the 2 servers could take most of the time. 4 staff for 100 or so shouldn't be an issue if tables of 10 are going to shuffle up one by one to get their plates. But that's not how it ended up playing out on the day of. As it would turn out, on the day of, the coordinator had no seating plan, or plan of who gets what. All we have is the invoice of the total numbers of dishes to be plated up, so no prioritizing can be done on a table-by-table basis. This is where we had a feeling it was about to be a shitty evening. Literally, right as service starts and we have about as many plates of salads stacked on the service window as can be fit, the wedding coordinator barges in and tells us people won't be coming to get their own plates, and refuses to elaborate further. Things just went suboptimal to disaster at this point. What's happening instead? Fucking wedding coordinator and 2 of their staff are carrying plates one by one to tables. We literally don't have room to place more plates. So the head chef exits the kitchen and starts taking plates by the armful. I'm talking all the way from wrist up to shoulder, since there are no serving trays in the client's venue, and we didn't pack any superfluous equipment, as per client's request. What does the chef see when he goes out there? The bloody wedding coordinator packed the tables in so tightly no one can even get out of their seat. No one can even get between the tables to serve the food, and guests have to pass the plates down the tables. But it just keeps getting worse. While chef is out, the coordinator comes in, apparently mad that the plates are not all matching. She's informed the client forwent a rental of dishware to use the ones in the venue. Among everything else she forwent, there literally aren't more than 30 matching plates of any particular size and design in the dish cupboard. So coordinator starts digging through the clean dishes with her unwashed hands, presumably trying to find more matching plates, without so much as a hair covering. On top of that, she tossed her jacket down onto an open bin full of bread rolls, so now we have to discard those. And on top of that, too, we have to sanitize all the dishes she made filthy. The salads were simple, but the entrees have multiple components. The coordinator and her staff start to just take incomplete plates because they don't even know what a full plate should include. When we tell them to stop, the coordinator goes full Karen, berating us and saying people are hungry, while also berating us for sending out incomplete plates. Now, Mother of Bridezilla, the Queen Karen herself, comes up to the plating window to scream at the whole kitchen staff, shouting obscenities, slurs, threats, etc. She is literally screaming that some entrees left the kitchen without a dinner roll. When Chef apologizes and tries to calm her down and offers to go hand out the missing rolls, she says,
"I'll shove those dinner rolls up your ass."
Chef shrugs her off and once again has to go out of the kitchen to dole out the missing items directly to people. As soon as the chef left, the Karen coordinator comes back in and starts fucking with the plates again, grinding service to a halt as we desperately try to clean up her health violations. Mother of Bridezilla returns, more verbal harassment ensues. The last plates are finally made up, leftovers get packaged where they need to go, and at this point, Chef sends everyone home so they don't have to deal with the Karen posse anymore. Queen Karen told us to get the fuck out multiple times anyhow. Chef, the brave man that he is, stays behind and helps to bust the tables, scrap the dishes, and clean the kitchen. No cleaning of dishwares was to be included, because Karen didn't want to pay the staff hours to handle that. Chef stays over and handles it all anyway because, bless him, he wants to make up for the inconvenience of it all. Wasn't good enough for Bridezilla, or Mother of Bridezilla, though. Almost immediately following the wedding, they started sending angry emails to demand huge refunds, with threats of bad reviews. Our office guy, by this point, has conducted their own investigation, since just about every staff member filed a report of harassment from the client and their guests, as well as notification of all the health violations Coordinator Karen did. Oh ho, but what a mistake it was to use facts on a Karen. They immediately spun around, making up all sorts of health violations, downplaying the tirade of verbal harassment, minimizing Coordinator Karen's kitchen escapades, and threats of review bombing. Rightly so, office guy shuts them down, offers a partial refund as a professional courtesy, but only on the contingency they sign a settlement agreement. Why sign a settlement agreement? Because they've already threatened review bombing, taking things to court, slander and libel, defamation, etc. In my opinion, the company should have told them to pound sand. An apology would have been too good, after Queen Karen called kitchen staff with autism a very rude name that starts with R, among other BS. Apparently, signing that agreement just wasn't what the Karen clan wanted, or maybe they wouldn't be satisfied with anything less than a full refund. But the review bombing started, social media slandering and general angry Karen stuff. What a nightmare. Apparently, some of them even submitted bogus reports to the health inspector. Hilariously enough, none of those even lined up with their previous complaints, such as one for moldy food in the frozen meals we sell at our storefront. As of initially writing this back in November last year, Google finally stepped in and blasted their review bombing into the shadow realm. All they could do was go cry about it over on Facebook. I do have an update for this whole debacle, though it's not a good one. As it turned up during investigation of the Karen clan, they're a bunch of anti-vax COVID deniers too. What does this have to do with any of this? Well, shortly after I made the initial post, they ended up transmitting COVID to all the staff we had present there, who transmitted it to other staff, and so on. That basically left us down for the rest of November with all our staff out sick, as well as getting their families sick. All because they're too stupid and selfish to get a little prick in the arm. All in all, I think this is the worst group of people I have ever seen in over 2 decades of hospitality. 4. To preface, I am 19 years old, so pretty young and new to working as a whole, not just in the service industry. I try my best, though, and I really enjoy my job. Even on days when we close at 2 a.m., I smile until the end and leave satisfied with how the day went. Long story short, I am very thankful to my job. However, I do encounter a few guests that behave super hurtfully. Some that feel like they get off on humiliating a young girl. I work at a pub, so obviously I will encounter drunk men and women who tow over the line. I've had men ask about my undergarments. I have to laugh it off. I get it. This time I reacted, and I'm not sure my reaction was warranted, though. My manager always tells me to move on and smile it off, but honestly I couldn't. At my place, we are told to constantly move around, never sit down for too long, and don't just stand around doing nothing. I fill my time with taking away cups the moment I spot empty ones, bringing refills, cleaning tables, and straightening chairs. I do a little routine every minute. There was a table who had their 6th or 7th round of beers, which they ordered each time we cleaned the empty cups off the table. We're short-staffed, only 2 waitresses, so it was my turn to start their nth round, and naturally, I reached for an empty cup. I was completely oblivious as to what would come next. May I take your cup? Maybe another refill? Could have given me a no thanks or nah, but no, he had to stretch it.
Do me a favour, will you?
He asked. I nodded and watched him take the cup, tilt it, point to it, and make a shocked face. He told me to copy what he did whilst holding the cup. It was close to 1 a.m. I had guests calling me to their table already, and I was sick with the flu. I wasn't about to do this, but the other men around the table beckoned me in. Okay, fine, I did exactly what he asked me, and bam, he took his phone and snapped a picture of me with flash. He proceeded to shove the picture in my face and said,
"This way you'll remember to not take my cup when there's something in it. Carry on!"
I walked away red-faced, kind of embarrassed that this happened in the middle of a crowded pub. Did not help that he was showing the picture to his friends and laughing, looking at me. True, there was half a gulp of fluid in the cup. I've been handed fuller cups before. His third buddy, who the cup belonged to, already left. I didn't see what I did wrong. Our other waitress attempted to take the glass later, which he responded with doing this again, but to her. When I saw it happen, I walked over and told him to stop it and asked him to respect us while telling him to leave the other waitress alone. He was slurring something about,
"This is what happens when you escalate."
His friend was apologizing and telling me not to take him seriously and that he's just joking. I just said, "He is taking the piss, but it's just not funny though, is it?" We walked away with the cup, and a round later the 2 dudes walked away, not even bothering to say goodbye. I told my mother what happened, and she told me I shouldn't have reacted, and that it's my job to laugh these things off. I felt humiliated, though. It was my 3rd day working, and I just wanted to be an attentive waitress. Not sure if I reacted appropriately. Sorry for the rant. 5. I've been at this new wine bar and restaurant for only a month or 2, just working a few shifts a week on the brunch weekend shift. I'm in Canada, and this is my 2nd serving job in this country, but I worked in New Zealand for a long time waitressing. There it is very different, though. No tips, so it's just considered a low, non-paying competitive job. I'm honestly a pretty average server here. Probably due to my New Zealand experience. I'm okay and social and get the job done, but I wouldn't say I'm exceptional. I find most chefs pretty difficult. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to work with nice chefs, and honestly, it makes serving so much easier. It's nice to have friendships with the chefs, and of course, when they like you, they treat you nice. My last job, I liked all of the chefs. There was no drama, and it was awesome. They helped me out when I made errors, or they rushed food if I forgot to put things in, gave me free food, and were, overall, very caring and kind. We had good laughs together, and it was really nice. A couple did have crushes on me, but it was never weird or uncomfortable in that way. Unfortunately, I was let go from that job due to the restaurant being too quiet, so never even got to say bye to any of the chefs. At this new place, they've only been open since April, and I think there are a few teething issues. There isn't amazing communication with management, and some things I've noticed which haven't been too great overall. It's also a tip pool, which sorta sucks. The head chef is a mid-20s who, in my opinion, shouldn't be running a kitchen. He doesn't have any leadership qualities, and he is very petulant and temperamental. Yes, I know being a chef is insanely stressful, and he works like 70-hour weeks. But honestly, the way he acts is just super shitty and off-putting. For example, today, he himself messed up a few orders, and instead of taking ownership and fixing it, he starts swearing, slams down a pan on the oven, and literally stomps out of the restaurant, leaving his staff looking around in bewilderment, unsure of what to do. If I ever make a mistake, I am terrified of communicating that with the kitchen, and so are the managers and other servers. so there is no flow between the kitchen and the front of house at all. He reacts so terribly, and any minor thing that happens, he does not take it well. He also puts foot up on the pass but doesn't say anything. So he yells if we take the food and try to figure out what table it is. And he yells if no one runs the food. What? That makes it a really unpleasant work environment. The worst thing is everyone just accepts it. No one calls him out or even acknowledges that it's really not a great way to be, and makes things difficult. Basically a rant, but tips on dealing with shitty chefs would be great. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 234. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button. If you'd like to get early access to the videos, then support me on my Patreon, which is linked in the description, as is the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring. If you especially enjoyed the video, then do leave a tip. You can do so by clicking on the heart with the $sign in the middle. Tips are not required, but they are appreciated. Okay. Don't think we have any other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question and answer of the day. And today's question is: how often do you cook a meal from scratch? Like buy ingredients, prep the thing, cook it, eat it. Are you more likely to do that in a week? Is that something you like to do habitually? Or are you generally just going to grab something from the freezer or the refrigerator, throw it in the microwave, or even just something you can put in the oven that will cook quickly? Lately, I've definitely just been the get whatever I can do quickly, but also yummy kind of guy. But I'm now trying to get back into toward actually buying ingredients and cooking things because, one, it's often yummier, and you can tailor it to your taste, of course. And I find I like cooking. I just don't have time to do it enough. So why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, we'll have the answer of the day from the last video. And today's answer comes from Ray Luge. I believe this is in reference to whether or not you wear socks when you're at home. And their answer was, lately I've been doing socks. The floor keeps getting dirty with the amount of people we have in the house. However, if I'm alone and the temp is right, I'd go bare. Thank you very much for your answer, Ray Luge. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.